We got to talk about the story at the New York Times that's circulating around. This is kind of nuts. Smith College is one of the privileged elitist colleges in the country. In midsummer of 2018, a black student at Smith College recounted a distressing American tale. She was eating lunch in a dorm lounge when a janitor and a campus police officer walked over and asked her what she was doing there. The other officer, who could have been carrying a lethal weapon, left her near meltdown, she wrote on Facebook, saying that the encounter continued a year-long pattern of harassment at Smith. All I did was be black, she said, or wrote. It's outrageous that some people question my being at Smith College and my existence as a woman of color. Now follow along here. The college's president, Kathleen McCartney, offered profuse apologies and put the janitor on paid leave. This painful incident reminds us of the ongoing legacy of racism and bias, the president wrote, in which people of color are targeted while simply going about the business of their ordinary lives. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and CNN picked up the story of a young female student harassed by white workers. The American Civil Liberties Union, which took the student's case, said she was profiled for eating while black. Less attention was paid 3 months later when a law firm hired by Smith College to investigate the episode found no persuasive evidence of bias. The student was determined to have eaten in a deserted dorm that had been closed for the summer. The janitor had been encouraged to notify security if he saw unauthorized people there. The officer, like all campus police, was unarmed. Smith College officials emphasized reconciliation and healing after the incident. In the months to come, they announced a raft of anti-bias training for all staff, a revamped and more sensitive campus police force, and the creation of dormitories as demanded by the student and her ACLU lawyer, set aside for black students and other students of color. You got that? Creation of dormitories set aside for black students. In other words, non-integrated facilities set aside for minorities. But the campus never offered any public apology or amends to the workers whose lives were gravely disrupted by the student's accusation. This is a tale of how race, class, and power collided at the elite 145-year-old liberal arts college, where tuition, room, and board top $78,000 a year. Isn't that cheaper than Mercer? Where the employees who keep the school running often come from working-class enclaves beyond the school's elegant wrought iron gates. The story highlights the tensions between a student's deeply felt sense of personal truth and facts that are at odds with it. Let me read you this again. This sentence right here. Here is postmodernism encapsulated in a sentence. Critical theory encapsulated in a sentence. The story highlights the tensions between a student's deeply felt sense of personal truth and facts that are at odds with it. In other words, facts don't care about your feelings. Those tensions come at a time. The wording of the sentence, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the wording of the sentence. The story highlights the tensions between a student's deeply felt sense of personal truth. What the hell is personal truth? There's truth and there's a lie. The student's deeply felt sense of a lie that she wished to be true and the actual truth of the situation. The tensions come at a time when few in the Smith community feel comfortable publicly questioning liberal orthodoxy on race and identity, and some professors worry the administration is too deferential to its increasingly emboldened students. See, this is the problem. Woke-O-Haram will come for you, and it doesn't matter what the truth is. And because academics are in Woke-O-Haram, they don't care about the truth, or they're sympathetic to it. Their allyship with Woke-O-Haram, or they're scared to death of Woke-O-Haram. They see what the terrorists can do. They see the terrorism in Woke-O-Haram. James Miller is an economics professor at Smith College and a conservative. How dare he? Man, Woke-O-Haram is coming for him now. My perception is that if you're on the wrong side of issues or identity politics, you're not just mistaken, you're evil. Yes, because Woke-O-Haram is a religiously fundamentalist terrorist organization. In an interview, the college president, Ms. McCartney, said that the students' encounter with the campus staff was part of a spate of cases of living while black harassment around the nation. There was, she noted, great pressure to act. We always try to show compassion for everyone involved. President McCartney, like all the other workers the student interacted with on that day, is white. Faculty members, however, pointed to a pattern that they say reflects the college's growing timidity in the face of allegations from Woke-O-Haram students, especially around the issue of race and ethnicity. In 2016, students denounced faculty at Smith's social work program as racist after some professors questioned whether admission standards for the program had been lowered, and this was affecting the quality of the fieldwork. Dennis Miles, one of the professors they decried, left the school not long after. In the autumn of 2019, the Religious Studies Department proposed a class on, listen to this, this is one of my favorite parts of this. In the autumn of 2019 at Smith College, the Religious Studies Department proposed a class on Native American religion and spirituality. A full complement of students registered, but well before classes began, a small contingent of Native American students and allies pasted bright red posters on buildings on campus, reviling the course as harmful, intrusive, and disrespectful, and attacking the instructor, who is young, white, and not on a tenure track. How dare he? He had an academic background in the field and had modeled his course on that of his mentor, who was a well-known professor and a member of the Choctaw Nation. The administration declined to challenge the student protesters and had the instructor submit to sessions of radical listening with the protesters. In the to go to radical listening sessions. So he went to a struggle session. Oh my gosh. The Chinese Communist Party during the Cultural Revolution would allow struggle sessions, which were a form of public humiliation. The aim of the struggle session was to shape public opinion as well as humiliate, persecute, or execute political rivals and those deemed as class enemies. The victim of a struggle session was forced to admit various crimes before a crowd of people who would verbally and physically abuse the victim until they confessed. Struggle sessions were often held at a workplace. They were sometimes conducted in sports stadiums where large crowds would gather for them. Oh my gosh. The professor or the instructor, he wasn't on the tenure track, so he was an instructor, was required to submit to radical listening sessions with the protesters. And then the Religious Studies Department dropped the class. The atmosphere at Smith is gaining attention nationally, in part because of a recently resigned employee of the school, Jody Shaw, who attracted a fervent YouTube following by decrying what she sees as the college's insistence that its white employees, through anti-bias training, accept the theory of structural racism. Stop demanding that I admit to white privilege and work on my so-called implicit bias as a condition of my continued employment, Ms. Shaw, who is also a 1993 graduate of Smith and who worked in the residential life department, said in one of her videos. After months of clashing with the administration, Ms. Shaw resigned last week and appears likely to sue the school, calling it a racially hostile workplace. Now, the student who kicked all this off, and her name is Omau Canute. I may be mispronouncing it. Kanoute. Is New York raised, a 5'2" runner and science student, was the first in her family who immigrated from Mali to attend college. She worked that summer as a teaching assistant, and on July 31st awoke late and stopped at the Tyler House dormitory cafeteria for lunch on her way to the gym. The account of what unfolded next is drawn from the investigative report and dozens of interviews, including with her lawyer, who declined interview requests with the New York Times. Student workers were not supposed to use the Tyler cafeteria. It was reserved for a summer camp program for young children. Jackie Blair, a veteran cafeteria employee, mentioned to the student when she saw her getting lunch there and then decided to drop it. Staff members danced carefully around rule enforcement for fear students will lodge complaints. We used to joke, don't let a rich student report you because if you do, you're gone, said Mark Patnaud, a janitor. Ms. Ganut took her food and then walked through a set of French doors, crossed a foyer, and reclined in the shadowed lounge of a dormitory closed for the summer, where she scrolled the web as she ate. A large stuffed bear obscured the view of her from the cafeteria. A janitor in his 60s and poor eyesight was emptying garbage cans when he noticed someone in the closed lounge. All involved with the summer camp were required to have a state background check, and campus police had advised staff it was wisest to call security rather than to confront strangers. The janitor, who worked for Smith for 35 years, dialed security. We have a person sitting there laying down in the living room, the janitor told a dispatcher. I didn't approach her or anything, but he seems out of place. The janitor had noticed Ms. Canut's black skin, but made no mention of that to the dispatcher. Ms. Canut was in the shadows. He was not sure, the janitor, if he was looking at a man or a woman. She would later accuse the janitor of misgendering her. A well-known older campus security officer drove over to the dorm. He recognized Ms. Canut as a student, and they had a brief and polite conversation, which she recorded. He apologized for bothering her, and she spoke to him of her discomfort. Stuff like this happens way too often, where people just feel like threatened. That night, Ms. Ganut wrote a Facebook post. It's outrageous that some people question my being at Smith and my existence overall as a woman of color. Her 2-paragraph post hit Smith College like an electric charge. President McCartney weighed in a day later. I begin by offering the student involved my deepest apology that this incident occurred and to assure her that she belongs in all Smith places. Oh my gosh. Y'all, it is the elite academic institutions where Woke-O-Haram is running rampant. They have no grace. They want you ruined for perceived slights. And academic institutions live in such fear of them that they give them what they want. Listen to this. Ms. McCartney, who is the campus president, and her staff talk often of their social justice mission, and faculty say this is seeped into nearly every aspect of the college. Students can now obtain a minor in social justice, so you can go to Smith College and train to be a Woke-O-Haram terrorist. They give you a diploma that certifies you as a terrorist. The president had stumbled in ways and left her bruised by 2018. In 2014, she moderated an alumni discussion in New York on free speech. A white female panelist argued it was a mistake to ban Mark Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn because he used the N-word. The panelist then uttered the word in hopes, she said, of draining the word of its ugly power. Students denounced Ms. McCarthy for failing to denounce the panelist, and the president requested forgiveness. Later in 2014, she wrote to the college community lamenting that grand juries had not indicted police officers in the deaths of black men. All lives matter, Ms. McCartney concluded in an inadvertent echo of a conservative rallying cry, and Smith students demanded her apology, which she again did. Ms. McCartney appeared intent on making no such missteps in 2018. In an interview, she said Ms. Ganut deserved an apology and swift action even before an investigation was undertaken. It was appropriate to apologize. She's living in a context of living while black incidents. And the school's workers were scapegoated. It's safe to say race is discussed far more often than class at Smith, said Professor Mark Lindler, who teaches American government. It's a feature of elite academic institutions that faculty and students don't recognize what it means to be elite. The repercussions spread. 3 weeks after the incident at Tyler House, Ms. Blair, the cafeteria worker, received an email from a reporter at the Boston Globe asking her to comment on why she called security on Ms. Ganut for eating while black. That puzzled her. What did she have to do with this? The food services director called the next morning. Jackie, you're on Facebook. She found out Ms. Ganut had posted her photograph, name, and email along with that of Mr. Patnaud, a 21-year Smith employee and janitor. This is the racist person, Ms. Ganut wrote of Ms. Blair, adding that Mr. Patnaud, too, was guilty. He, in fact, worked an early shift that day and had already gone home at the time of the incident. Ms. Ganut also lashed the Smith administrators. They're essentially enabling racist, cowardly acts. Ms. Blair has lupus, a disease of the immune system, and stress triggers episodes. She felt fate. Oh my God, I didn't do this, she told a friend. I exchanged a hello with a student and now I'm a racist. Ms. Blair was born and raised and lives in Northampton, and her husband a mechanic, and makes $40,000 a year. Within days of being accused by the student, she says she found notes in her mailbox and taped to her car window. Racist, read one. People called her home. You should be ashamed of yourself, a caller said. You don't deserve to live, said another. Smith College put out a short statement noting Ms. Blair had not placed the phone call to security, but did not absolve her of broader responsibility. Y'all, listen, I could go on with this. This is crazy, but it's Woke-O-Haram. Woke-O-Haram. This student should be expelled from campus for what she did. But it's the poor old white working class people who are punished for this student's sense of privilege and entitlement to go where she's not supposed to go on a campus and then scream racism, racism, and out them all and shame them all and cause them all to get death threats. You've got to stand up to Woke-O-Haram, but there aren't enough college campuses that are willing to because they're allies with the terrorists. Yes, Woke-O-Haram is a domestic terrorist group. They may not kill you, they just destroy your life. They send the mob after you to ruin you and silence you. The only way to beat Woke-O-Haram is to stand up to them and not be bullied by a bunch of privileged, elitist, spoiled brats.